What's up, guys? I'm Chris Spags here, back with another showdown breakdown for tonight's Monday Night Football battle between the Baltimore Ravens and the Los Angeles Rams, courtesy of Osmo.com. It looks like it'll be an interesting game today in my home of Los Angeles, but it could be one that's tough for DFS purposes, so let's get some positive energy in the air. And right now, please hit that like button. And also, comment your slate breaker down below. Could be anybody, but let me know who you think is going to ruin tonight's showdown slate for all of us down in the comments. Well, let's get right into it, starting with the quarterbacks on this Monday Night Football showdown slate, starting with Lamar Jackson in a matchup at the Rams in which there are 25 implied points for Baltimore. Jackson is a top projected player by a large margin, so he seems like a play worth having in more lineups as a regular spot, with a likelihood of a ton of ownership as captain as well. The Rams have a bad 52 graded run defense by PFF that should offer Lamar production. He seems worth rostering with a consideration that not having him in a lineup would make your lineup infinitely more contrarian. And on the other side, you have Jared Goff in this matchup versus Baltimore, in which there are 21.5 implied points for the Rams. Goff has a reasonable salary, but he comes with real risk on paper given Baltimore's league-high 50% blitz rate going against the Rams' 56 graded pass blocking group. Baltimore allows just a 60% completion rate and a low 2.5% passing TD rate, so while Goff looks to be in a tough spot on paper, if you're to load up on the Rams' pass game, it could be a more contrarian move despite a much higher likelihood of failure. And now let's talk about the running backs, starting with Mark Ingram in a matchup at the Rams. The Rams give up just 89 rushing yards per game, but the defense grades out as not as good as their results, so Ingram could have more upside than the poor projections he'll have industry-wide. Ingram's 15.3 touches per game aren't the most, but he's tended to see more opportunity against higher caliber opponents. His high price relative to his projection could drive his ownership lower than it should be. And on the other side, we have Todd Gurley versus Baltimore. Gurley had a strong week 11 with 28 touches, and the Rams opting for runs up the gut rather than relying on their weak offensive line to create zone runs outside. And Baltimore has shown some weakness on the ground with 4.4 yards per rush. Chicago did impede Gurley fairly well in the second half once they figured out the change in approach, so maybe a bit of a point chase of Gurley to load up on him, even though his price is reasonable enough to justify some exposure. And now let's talk about the wide receivers and tight ends, starting with Baltimore's receivers at the Rams. Marquise Brown is the best projected pass catcher, but he did run 20 routes to Seth Roberts' team leading 21 in week 11. So while Brown has big playability, it may be worth considering cheaper wide receivers if building multiple lineups. Mark Andrews is also the clearly top projected tight end, but he ran less routes than Nick Boyle in week 11, and just slightly more than Hayden Hurst, so his market share may not be worth his exceedingly high price. And on the other side, we have the Rams receivers versus Baltimore. Cooper Kupp is the top projected wide receiver for the Rams, but he's sunk with Jared Goff recently with 4 out of his last 5 games with 11 or less fantasy points, but he does seem worth exposure in regular spots or as a captain, given the upside that he's shown throughout the year. The hope is that Brandon Cooks' return could help to divert Baltimore's defensive attention with a 79 graded coverage group for PFF, and they could open things up for Kupp and Robert Woods, while Jarrett Everett may be a sneaky play given Baltimore's 9% DVOA boost to tight ends, despite him having the most insecure target load. And lastly, let's hit on the defenses and the kickers, starting with the Rams defense versus Baltimore. Lamar Jackson may be due for some regression on his low 1.8% interception rate, and the Rams' cheap price could be worth a bit of exposure despite the high team total, and Baltimore putting up over 400 yards per game. And on the other side, we have the Ravens defense at the Rams. Baltimore's high blitz rate makes me think they could cause headaches for Jared Goff enough to generate turnovers, and I'll have some exposure despite their price being twice as high as the Rams defense today on Draftkings. And last but not least, we have the 2 kickers to hit on. Justin Tucker projects as better value despite his higher salary, and he could be a factor tonight with Baltimore's ability to move the ball, but the Rams allowing scores in only 30% of their drives. Greg Zuerlein has a big leg that could get extra points if he sees long attempts, but he projects for less raw points and worse value than Tucker, making for a bit of a lean towards Tucker when choosing between the 2 kickers. So there you have it. That's what I'm seeing so far for it. Looks like it'll be a tough Monday Night Football game between the Ravens and the Rams. So right now, please hit that like button and let me know who you think is going to be your slate breaker for tonight's showdown slate down below. Coming up in a bit should be our ownership projections for this showdown slate. So use this promo code SWITCH and hedge for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. You can also go to osmo.com/join and find packages as low as $3.95 a week on there. So go to osmo.com/join right now and choose a package that'll work for you. Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Spags. There's a lot of things that can happen in tonight's Monday Night Football game, and I promise I'll be tilting alongside all of you on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Spags. Of course, this week is Thanksgiving, so today will be our only showdown slate video of the week, so I hope you guys have a happy and healthy holiday. Enjoy all that food, and I'll see you guys again next week for another showdown breakdown. So enjoy tonight's game, and good luck.